Today, I am honored to introduce Meg Gallagher, often known as Meg Squats, to the podcast. Meg is an incredible lifter and entrepreneur, but more importantly, she's a brilliant strength coach, an inspiration to millions, a wife, a mother to two beautiful children, and she's someone I will reference when my daughters are looking for an inspiration as they get older. Meg has dedicated herself to making strength training empowering and accessible for women all over the world. She created Stronger by the Day app, as well as Buff Chick supplements and Strong Friends. Her journey is inspiring in every sense of the word, and I am blessed to have her here with me today. Meg Gallagher, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. What an intro. You had to add the kids in there and make me want to cry. Thank you.
Welcome, Meg.
Thanks.
So, Meg, just to start off, who are you?
Like Jordan covered it all. I'm Meg, and I guess I started lifting weights on my own before I became a coach, before I became interested in posting any of it on social media. I really wanted to look jacked for some reason. I think I always say Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet from CrossFit World. Yep. This is like 2013.
Yep.
And I remember seeing her and Annie Thorstad and being like, yep, that's it. That's who I want to look like. And I just learned that they did CrossFit, and I walked into a CrossFit gym and started lifting weights. And through that, I had never expected how it would change me as a whole person, not just my physique. And I wanted every young woman who was maybe drinking a little bit too much after college, like I was, and a little unsure of where she was going, to know that lifting weights can have that full life transformation. That was huge for me in my life, and it completely changed everything around me. And so I was like, what's wrong with this world? Oh, it's super hard to get into, and it can be really confusing. So my whole mission is to get a barbell in every woman's hands and sort of break down some of those barriers that make it really confusing and intimidating.
Well, I'd say you've done a very good job of that.
Thank you. I have seen things changing, which is really exciting over the last 10 plus years. It looks a lot different. So that is, I can't take too much credit, but I can take a little bit of credit, at least.
You can take a lot of credit.
I was there. I saw it happen. So now all the muscle mommies, as they call them, are alive and well on all the social media, and they're thriving. So I love to see it.
Oh my, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What misconceptions do people have about you?
About me, misconceptions. I'm not sure. I think I really try to just be myself. And although, I can feel misunderstood at times, it's usually not much about fitness.
Okay.
I think my strength is that I'm able to communicate exactly like how I want to see the world change. Mm-hmm. So I haven't noticed any huge misconceptions like that. That is like a big skill of mine. Mm-hmm. Like I've learned, I'm good at branding. I'm bad at a lot of other things. And I think I'm good at branding because really I went through the transformation that I want people to see. So I know what it's like. I don't know if that's a great answer to your question, but I feel pretty understood for the most part.
It's amazing.
Now there are some like fringe opinions that I have about lifting and training, but those are just like the small stuff that we can handle. Like those can be, you can have multi sides of that. So I don't feel super misunderstood.
Okay. We'll get into those fringe opinions later. Okay. I would love to hear more about that.
Sure.
What is something that you used to believe was true that now you don't think is true?
I used to think that having kids would destroy my body and I would be a completely different person by the end of it. And I am a different person, but physique wise, I thought that was it. Like you enter a new phase of your, let's say, athletic life. And that hasn't been the case for me. I've been able to do some pretty badass things post having children, and I'm 4 months postpartum now. So
congratulations.
It seems a little bit, this isn't the same for everyone, but this time around it's a little bit easier.
Good.
Than the last time from what I remember. So yeah, and I've just met so many women who have the same story, and they've been able to do like conquer their bodies, if you will, especially in this life, because we're a little bit more efficient as moms and parents, and we don't have as much time to fuck around. Can I curse?
As much as you want.
Sorry.
It is encouraged.
So yeah, I think that was a misconception. I for sure thought my best years were in my 20s and prior to starting a family. And then after that, I don't know what I thought would happen, but I wouldn't be posting bikini shots on Instagram for sure. And look at me, I'm still doing it. So yeah, I'm going through it and meeting so many women who have been through becoming moms and going through pregnancy and postpartum recovery has shown me that my best years are like now and hopefully ahead of me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's a great message, because I remember growing up, everyone always saying the best years of your life are college. And I always hated that. I was like, well, that's pretty young.
Yeah.
And if college is the best years, that's just downhill forever. So I like that you're looking forward and realizing there's so much more amazing things to come. I think it's an important message.
Exactly. And college is fun, don't get me wrong. But at least in my experience, I didn't exactly know who I was. I was still figuring that out, and I didn't really understand my true passions. I had some interests, but did I have true passion about anything? No, I didn't even start lifting weights until after college. So I 100% relate with that.
The other day you wrote, my goals need 130 grams of protein. My taste buds want 60 grams of protein. Can you talk about that?
Well, who doesn't want just pasta all day and bread? And, you know, if I could hit 60 grams of protein in dairy alone, I'm sure. I'm big cheese, dairy type of person.
Yep.
So it is a struggle to get higher protein. And people always say like, oh, 130 grams of protein, that's way too much. But I am, you know, lifting weights, and there's a spectrum regarding your goal as to how much you should get. And for me, it's a bit higher than most people. So yeah, it's a struggle to get up there some days.
What are your goals?
Right now, my big goal is to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight.
Okay.
Wait for it.
Okay.
On my squat. So it's not necessarily a body weight goal, but I do want to get back up to squatting 225 pounds.
Okay.
I squatted that actually on my due date. So it's more of like, you know, I found that I was able to lift pretty heavy during pregnancy. Not that I went crazy, but that postpartum recovery bit of it, you kind of have to scale things way back. And so I'm getting up there. I think I'm going to hit my goals, my current like macro cycle goal. So yeah, when I get that 225 squat, I'll be pretty stoked. And yeah, that's kind of the only thing on my mind, just getting back into my typical habits, hitting the protein goals.
Yep.
A lot of them are more process goals and more performance than physique.
I love that.
That's not to say that I don't weigh myself or I don't have a physique like ideal in mind for myself. But it is a little bit more satisfying to focus on the numbers that I'm hitting in the gym. And just takes a little bit of stress off for me.
I love that. I want to get a lot into that stuff later. I'm like sort of quickly going through. I'm trying a new interview style right now.
Cool,
so,
I like it.
One more question. You wrote the other day, you said health and fitness shortcuts exist. You've just known them for so long, they don't feel exciting anymore. The stuff that feels exciting, it's unproven, overhyped, and probably useless. Not a secret, just a waste of time and money. Can you explain that?
Exactly. The reason it can be hard in the current state of our algorithms from Lord Zuckerberg and co. is because people are really trying to get that next hack. It's like, I want something hacky. I want something that I've never heard of. And the tips that people in my position where it's like, yeah, I want to make content that is interesting to people. Health and fitness sometimes is not that interesting because the things that we know to work are really boring. There are hacks to hitting your protein goals, but mine personally is like, hey, let's have a protein shake. And that is not groundbreaking advice. You know, it's just not sexy. It's not exciting. So a lot of times, my own mother we'll see those Facebook little infographic cards where it's like, lose your menopause belly.
Oh, no.
And she'll like, you think I should do this workout? And it's just like bird dogs and sit-ups. And I'm like, you could do that workout totally, but that's not for your goal, for the goal that it's stating there. That's not what is going to move the needle for you. And we're all so desperately looking for that next thing. And technology has made amazing advancements as far as like Quest chips, protein bars. They're so good,
They're
right?
amazing.
So it is easier than ever to hit our goals, but now we're getting 1,000 messages a day on these new hacks. And I would say all the boring ones that you scroll by are hacks that were groundbreaking 10 years ago. And little tricks and tips and mindset frames that we've already heard. So yeah, we're waiting for the next magic pill, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just all the things that work just aren't exciting.
You know, it's as an aside of this, and then I want to get into a little bit more in depth with you. You bring up a really interesting point that as someone who's hosting a podcast, I've been intrigued by, because I see a lot of very big podcasts. They'll bring in people who say the wildest shit. And I was literally looking at a podcast today, at the reviews of one podcast today, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And the host brings on people who say like crazy, crazy things.
Yeah,
and
Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett.
There's
It's
that
bringing
as one
on
of
crazy
them.
people. Yeah.
And they do it because they get these clips that then go viral on social media, which then promote the podcast even more. But I was looking at the reviews, and there was this one woman who left a review saying, I'm more confused than ever, because in one podcast, your guest was saying that women need to be intermittent fasting. And the literal next podcast was a woman saying women should absolutely never be intermittent fasting. And so I understand why people are so confused and why they keep looking for these next best things, because the most popular platforms in the world with the most viral clips are continually spewing things that are not only contradictory, but also very extremist. And they make it seem like you need these extreme tactics in order to make simple, effective progress. So I get it. I understand why people are confused. It's a difficult landscape.
And it's just Dr. Oz 10 years later.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we've always had this, and now I guess we have more choice, but it is a little rough I feel like accountability on Instagram was better back then, because now I do have confidence that I can just start giving my most controversial fitness opinions. I can just start putting them out there, and the fitness community is not going to hold me accountable. I feel that.
Interesting.
So for example, if I were to say, here's how to bench press, here's what I think about the bench press. 100% back when I was in my powerlifting days, I would have mostly powerlifting coaches commenting on it and giving their 2 cents.
Yep.
And now those people don't see the content anymore. And so I miss that sort of discourse, whereas now it's just random people seeing it.
Yep.
And obviously I'm not necessarily making that video for that audience, but there's less accountability in our specific like little corner of fitness. That sucks. And what is the solution?
I feel like that happens as you expand out into general population and less in a niche thing like powerlifting, or because I know there are some corners of the powerlifting, strongman, Olympic lifting world where you say something and someone disagrees. Like I've seen people going nuts at each other, trying to holding them accountable or just being douchebags is a fine line. But I also feel like when you break into, as you have the general population and you're getting a barbell in the hands of Gen Pop women, you're speaking mostly to people who they're trusting you. Like you are the expert. So why would they hold you accountable? Because they're like, I've got kids, I've got a job, I'm busy. Like, I don't know. I'm trusting you implicitly. Whereas the people who would hold you accountable are the people who this is their job.
Yeah.
You know? I want to talk about, now I want to get a little bit more in depth. And start a little bit earlier. You were talking about how you got into all of this and you started with CrossFit, but you've been very open about your struggles, your past struggles with disordered eating and exercise habits. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I felt like I'd always struggled with food or never, quote unquote, figured it out.
Okay.
I never felt like I could get a lean physique until one day I decided I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do a bodybuilding competition. So from one extreme to the other, I dieted really hard. I hired a coach, counted my macros, counted literally everything that I ate. And I got on stage and did not perform very well, but I was proud of the work that I did. And I did have 6-pack abs, which was my real goal there.
And you proved that you could do it.
Exactly. So in that process, I learned a lot, but I didn't have much guidance for after the fact, and letting sort of like going back to normal life per se. I didn't know what to do or how to transition back to normal life. So I just did whatever and went off the rails and made up for lost time of like 12 weeks of dieting. What? And
what does that look like, going off the rails?
oh, dude, I used to live in Washington, D.C. And still to this day, I lived maybe like on the other side of my block was a 7-Eleven. To this day, I cannot walk into a 7-Eleven because of the smell. You know how it has a really distinct smell?
7-Eleven has a
Because
just like
I
Subway.
would go in there and buy multiple donuts from the like 7-Eleven donut shop and walk out, go back to my apartment and eat them. And then I would walk back to 7-Eleven in case it just didn't scratch the itch. And so it was disordered habits to where I was doing that alone, not like out, I wasn't with anyone enjoying anything.
Right.
I was just eating for
binging.
Yes, I was binging. And so it still scars me, 7-Eleven. I'm like, oh, I can't walk in here. I can't do it. So things like that. And it took me a long time, and that's really when I leaned into the strength side and started powerlifting, because I knew, okay, I've got some more mass, and I started feeling uncomfortable in my body, like I'd gained new body fat, and I was, I don't want to say worse than I'd ever been, but I had more body fat than I'd ever had in my life, even before I had figured it out, and struggling with binge eating disorder. So knowing that like, I'm not going to fix this anytime soon, and workouts felt uncomfortable for me because I had this like new body. And so I started a program called Squat Every Day. You just go in and you squat every day, and then you leave. You warm up. You can warm up, okay? You do a little bit of stretching. And really, I use that example a lot for people where they say, I don't have time. I'm like, what if you just did like one exercise? And that's how I became Meg Squats, is because I would only squat. And I did, it's a legit like squat every day program. And you just try to hit a new AMRAP. You can choose when you walk in, okay, am I going to hit a 10 rep AMRAP, or am I going to do a 2 double AMRAP? Those are the easiest ones, I think, double AMRAP. So yeah, you just keep trying to peak your squat with a Squat Every Day program. And
7 days a week?
I think I just did 4 or 5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get some rest days. Good, because you're really working hard on that one exercise. I mean, it's a little bit challenging.
Yeah, sure.
You're pushing the weight. And so I did that, and then got keen to powerlifting. I had a couple of other friends who were doing powerlifting, and they're like, oh, well, you should try to like, if you're peaking this, then you should try to add a bench and deadlift. Would you be okay with that? And so then I started feeling, having more activity, and started to lose weight slowly, really gradually, and sort of get my head wrapped around the binging issue very slowly. If I could go back, I would hire a therapist to try and solve that a little bit more rapidly. But I was like 24. What do I look like being 24 years old hiring a therapist? Probably just didn't have the money to do something like that. So I kind of like ate shit for a long time, and then gradually got out of those habits.
I see many people, men and women, but especially women, and maybe it's my own bias just because I mainly work with women, but I see many women doing something similar where when they want to get lean or prove that they can get lean, or they are lean and they're afraid to lose being lean, they continually go to do bodybuilding shows, physique shows. What would you tell someone, a woman specifically, who says like, hey, I want to lose body fat, I want to get lean. I'm going to do a bodybuilding show, I'm going to do a physique show, like what would you tell them?
I mean, it's a pretty extreme way to go. And so I've been working on personally and with business, like really trying to understand my goal and like in your goal doing like the why, like why bodybuilding show? Because you want to get lean. Why do you want to get lean? And really trying to get to the deeper meaning of how does being lean play into your grand scheme of life and why is that so important? But there are plenty of other like lesser stressful and expensive activities that you can do. Maybe with something like that, we just try to take like one step removed where it's like, what if we just got lean for a photo shoot? And that way we don't have to get as lean. So, you know, there are ways that you can kind of hack doing something super similar, but not having as much pressure or as much commitment. Because maybe that's the fear is, oh, if I don't go all in on this, then I won't have my results that I'm used to. And figuring out, well, how can you be in a place where you're happy with your results and you're actually getting what you want without taking up space on a stage, literally.
Yeah, I think it's great points. I think we see this pretty frequently, at least here in America. I'm not sure what it's like in other cultures, but when someone, they wants to start exercising, they want to start exercising, all of a sudden, I'm going to do a marathon. I'm going to sign up for the Boston Marathon. It's like, that's wild. You've been sedentary for 20 years. That's like, and they tell everybody, it's like almost like extreme accountability. It's like, I'm going to sign up for this and tell you all because it will force me to do this. Or I want to get lean. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. I'm going to tell everybody about it. And it's this extreme accountability. Can you talk about what it was like to actually prepare for a bodybuilding show? Not necessarily from the training, more like nutrition, because you spoke about the rebound and how difficult that was, but what did it take for you to get six-pack abs? Like, what did that look like realistically?
Oh, and that's what I realized, like especially the social aspect of it. Mind you, I'm living in Washington, D.C. I have a ton of friends. Lots of them are in fitness, but your gym friends like to go out and party. Like, that's just the way it is. And I became completely recluse. And so the social aspect of it alone, because I couldn't have fun without having the food noise in my head at that stage, that really affected my social life and made it even harder to get out of the binging, because then I lost that support system of people where it's like, I think the first step before you like hire a therapist is tell someone. And so because I had spent however many weeks not hanging out with my friends and really isolating myself, you know, it just made the post-show like transition even harder. So yeah, the social aspect alone is not worth it. One of my favorite things to do is like go out to eat with friends or my family and like have a drink every once in a while.
How dare you
Yeah.
have a drink? That's a big no-no in the fitness industry right now.
I know. And I'm all for people getting sober or whatever. I told you I want to join AA, but it's probably inappropriate going back to like, what's your goal here? But yeah, the social aspect of it is huge. And now, there are some people who thrive off of that. And there are some people who can be so absolutely strict with themselves and their diet, and they love it. Like, they thrive off of counting every single macro. And I think that's cool. I do firmly believe, and I know that our brains are just different. Like, the way we receive serotonin or something about the brain means that they're able to do that and be super happy. And I'm not one of those people. So I do have to find ways whenever I am willing to be more disciplined or I have a more strict goal, I have to find ways to like make it fun and make it cutesy. Like, that's what I need to do for me and me being happy.
When you were preparing nutrition-wise, like you were isolating yourself, you weren't really hanging out with friends, what macro-wise, nutrition-wise, do you remember how many calories you were eating? Or
I do remember getting down to like 1,400 calories whenever I was super close to the show. And I think a little bit more prior to then, but I would say I was probably at like 1,600 for the bulk of it.
Okay.
And I think on stage I was maybe like 118 pounds,
Oh, wow.
which I sit now at like 150
Yep.
happily.
Yep.
Like I'm enjoying life at 150. And if I could do a little bit more cardio, I could get to 145 and happily. And it's less about my energy, like my caloric deficit. It's more about like the food that I like to prefer to eat.
Yeah. What do you like to eat? What's like some of your go-tos? Like, I just love this food.
Oh, I am big into brownies, homemade Ghirardelli. You know the Costco pack?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite. Like brownies are, not everybody believes in doing this, but that's one of those foods that I don't keep. I keep it in the house, but only in the pack where I have to make it.
Yeah. Have you ever just eaten the powder?
No. Well, I was going to say like cookie dough is one of those things where I thought, oh, if I buy cookie dough and I only make, I'll eat the cookie dough raw.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a huge sweet tooth.
Okay.
Brownies, cookies. For my 25th birthday party, I had a cookie birthday party. Everyone made a batch of cookies and we brought them together and did a cookie exchange.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was like a pretty good idea. I realize women have been doing this for centuries, but I thought I was very unique in like, coming up with that idea. But it was super fun. So yeah, I have a huge sweet tooth. And yeah, I like going out to eat and having a cocktail and fries and a burger. Favorite thing.
I like that. For women listening who maybe they're stuck in a restrictive cycle of eating, what advice would you give to someone right now who's struggling with feeling like they can't eat certain foods, or they consistently restricting them from certain foods? Like, do you have any advice for them, what they should focus on?
Yeah, I'd go back to telling someone. Like, you got to talk to someone about it, because it's hard for anyone to know that you're dealing with that unless they're seeing you at every meal. So they're super close to you. And even then, it's really easy to let that food noise in your head just take over every moment of your day. And if you notice that, to where you're eating a meal and you're thinking about the next one, that's a sign that you need to like get it out of your own head and talk to somebody about it, because it's like, it can be solved in many different ways, but it can be solved a lot faster if you tell someone and you get some professional help, honestly, because it's just a huge waste of your time. So if your time is valuable to you, yes, it could be expensive to bring a pro in, but I feel like I wasted a full year of my life with that constant thinking. And even before this fitness journey, my whole life, I look back and think like, oh, I do remember being at a meal and worrying about, should I be eating this, or just not knowing, and just letting it fester in my own head. So I think telling someone,
even just a friend, because if you're keeping it a secret,
exactly,
that's a sign.
If you're eating in secret, you're afraid to go out to eat because you can't control what choices you make. A lot of food noise is being worried about what other people think about what you're eating. Yes,
correct.
And Great so then point. You avoid certain situations so you're not doing it. And then if you're like me, opening your fridge in the middle of the night and just standing eating a tub of cookie butter. And so, I mean, that's super common, and no wonder if you're like alone by yourself and all you're thinking all day is just this chatter.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I vividly remember because I struggled with binge eating due to wrestling and all of that. I remember when I was counting calories, every time I started the day with whatever food I was eating, it was just a countdown until I was not allowed to eat anymore. And I feel like that's a common struggle people will have, where if they have an issue with food, it's here's the countdown until I'm no longer allowed to eat. And it's that anxiety building up with every single bite. Oh, there's one last bite. And then they finish and they're still really hungry, but they feel like they can't eat anymore. And I remember in college, I was in the university library and I had a buddy, his name was Kyle, and he was eating a banana nut muffin. And they had the calories on it was like an 800 calorie muffin.
Oh gosh.
I'm a small dude. Yeah. And that was like half my daily calories at that point in my life. When I was like being super strict and rigid, I remember he offered me half. He was like, do you want half? And in my mind, I was just like, how can this dude eat this without anxiety? Like that's so many of his calories for the day. And I really think it's something to be aware of. If you're constantly wondering, how could someone possibly eat that food without fear or anxiety, that's a sign that you've got something that you need to talk about with a professional.
Yeah. And just anxiety alone, where I just realized I started doing neurofeedback. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent.
Please.
I started doing neurofeedback. Have you ever heard of this?
I've not.
Okay, so just like what you're saying and talking about food noise and the anxiety around, oh gosh, I'm going to run out. It's similar to the feeling of like feeling like you're running out of time.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I've always done, especially in my professional life, is plan. Like I plan in my head, okay, after this, I'm going to do this and then that. And then tomorrow I got to worry about this. And then I got this picturing my schedule and then planning out the conversations that I'm going to have with people, planning, never truly being in the moment. So, I started doing neurofeedback because my friend Molly Galbraith,
Yeah,
she's
awesome.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I do need to get her on the podcast.
I think I asked generally, like, what was one thing that you never would have imagined would change your life? And she was like, doing neurofeedback. She's like, I never realized I had anxiety. And that was my exact experience. I was like, let me try neurofeedback. I'm sure I got something wrong with me. And so you kind of train your brain waves to think in different speeds, or like to move in different speeds. So your brain waves have like super slow speeds when you're about to fall asleep, and then really, really fast speeds when you're like chatter, going crazy, and you just had coffee, and your brain just doesn't shut up. And then there's like a middle ground where you can sit down and have a conversation. And so thinking of those times when I was dealing with anxiety around food, I would just plan out, similar to how I would like plan out my day. I would plan out all my meals in my head and think like, okay, I'd be eating, okay, this is breakfast, and then I'm going to have a snack, and then I'm going to have this, and you're just stressing yourself out. So anyway, neurofeedback, I didn't realize how good it was working until I got a massage. And when I would get a massage before neurofeedback, that would be my time to plan. Let me plan out everything when I'm supposed to be chilling and relaxing. No, that's my time to plan out my life and rethink every conversation I've had in the past week. And so one time I showed up to the massage and I was just like, oh, I'm not thinking about anything.
That's awesome.
Wow. I'm like, oh, this really did work for me. Like, okay, now I see what Molly was talking about with neurofeedback. But yeah, there totally is life on the other side where you're not thinking all the time and overthinking what you're putting in your body. It can just be food during set meal times. And It can just be like something that you do with friends.
I love that. I'm going to have to get Molly on and talk about neurofeedback.
Oh, dude,
I'll reach out to her.
Awesome.
She's great.
She's the best.
I want to talk about pregnancy. Okay.
Are you?
I am not pregnant.
I wanted that to be funny, but I guess people do say like, oh, are you guys pregnant? When it's like, yeah.
That is, as an aside, I quite frankly get annoyed when I hear a husband or a potential father saying like, we are pregnant.
Yeah.
It's annoying to me because I haven't experienced it. I've seen it with my wife. We are not pregnant in any way, shape, or form. She's pregnant, and I'm just helping as much as I can, but I'm not dealing with it. So, no, I'm not pregnant.
Never have.
Y'all are savages for dealing with it because it's unbelievable. Anyway, when you found out that you were pregnant first time, probably more the first time, but second time as well, did you approach training and nutrition differently than when you weren't pregnant? And did that change each trimester?
Well, so I'm a trainer and I love lifting weights and lifting heavy. And I knew a little bit about what to expect. And I also had some confidence that it's like, oh, I can still lift heavy. I've seen enough people do it. I've seen some like vague research supporting, but I didn't know the details. So I knew that if I was going to talk about it and share my experience, I knew that I wanted to be a little bit more brushed up. So I did end up getting certified as like a general pre and postnatal coach.
Okay, smart.
And then I that was my favorite thing to study. And then I went off the deep end and started looking into like pelvic floor rehab courses for personal trainers. And that I found to be even more interesting. So I just love the way that your pelvic floor is something that we never talk about, rarely talk about in lifting, like prior to the pregnancy, postpartum window. But it's there the whole time. And like, especially in powerlifting, we see evidence of it being there and it failing with incontinence. And we're still not like brushed up on it outside of that window and outside of people who specialize in pregnancy. So I found it to be super interesting and still applicable from what I was studying to outside of that window. But to answer your question, I knew that I was ready to like dive into it. I wanted to know everything that I could because I knew people were going to ask me questions about it. And I wanted to have at least some reference or at least enough information to refer people out to other people.
What questions do people ask you about it?
My community is definitely people who have been lifting and are interested in getting strong. So it's less of, hey, can I lift heavy? But it's more of like, how heavy can I go? So people I think are coming around to that idea where lifting weights during pregnancy, good. But trying to understand, okay, when I'm lifting weights, what does my body do? How is it different now? And so that's when you can go into breathing exercises and what literally when you're pulling up on that deadlift, what is your pelvic floor doing? Which you never think about. Well, hopefully most people never have to think about. But during this time you should and you can. So usually that's it. And then supplements. What kind of supplements can I take when I'm pregnant or postpartum?
What advice do you give around how heavy they should be lifting? How do they feel their pelvic floor? What advice do you give?
Yeah, I like to say that now there's just a new limiting factor, especially when you're like, let's say almost in the third trimester, things are starting to feel heavier. You're getting more pressure on your pelvic floor specifically. And that might be your limiting factor. Usually limiting factors in pregnancy are pelvic floor heaviness. So, I can feel I'm starting to have incontinence issues, or I'm feeling like I'm bearing down when I'm lifting. So it's kind of like, imagine if you had poop in your butt and you can feel I'm deadlifting, you know that feeling, right? Where you're like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So when you're pregnant, you can't just go to the bathroom and take care of it. You do have to find a pressure management strategy so that you're not feeling that like that heaviness, if you will.
Yeah.
So that could be a limiting factor, that heaviness feeling, or people experience a lot of pelvic girdle pain.
Okay.
It could be at the front of their pelvis, in their hip flexor. It could be what we call lightning crotch. It's just like a random shock of lightning in your crotch somewhere. These are all to do with the body preparing to give birth. And so it's kind of like, if you think of all your tendons and ligaments are nicely, tightly woven together.
Is that a Braxton Hicks contraction?
Sorry
to interrupt.
No, that's okay. A little bit different. Braxton Hicks contraction is kind of like feels in the abdomen like a little bit of a tightness.
Okay.
It's not painful tightness like real contractions, but it's like, I can feel something's going on. Like I don't know how to explain the feeling.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like not a cramp, but like the sensation of a cramp without the pain.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like a little bit of a tightening. Lightning crotch means so your tendons are, they don't go anything like this, but let's say they're like tightly woven together and they're holding everything up.
Yep.
When your body's preparing for pregnancy, things start to loosen. So
that makes sense.
You have tendons and ligaments that aren't as supported.
Yep.
So sometimes you just get a random shock of pain.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so what you can do to remedy that is train your pelvic floor, because it'll train the ligaments associated that are loosening and it'll give them a little bit extra support.
Interesting.
You can also get stronger glutes, will help support that.
Okay.
So that's why strength training, especially if you're having a painful pregnancy, can really be the remedy. A lot of times it's the last thing you want to do when you're dealing with pain, especially pelvic girdle pain.
Yep.
And everything hurts.
What is pelvic floor training, or more specific, what does it look like?
Well, honestly, you can train your pelvic floor with any movement, basically. So while you're squatting, you can change your pressure management strategy to activate your pelvic floor. That is just like some awareness of what your pelvic floor is doing so that you're not bearing down and like kind of scientifically, I guess I can't say like, yeah, you're increasing your likelihood of prolapse. I don't know if that's true or not, but you don't want to be pushing pressure down when you are exerting.
Okay. And what do you mean by pushing? Do you mean like bracing your abs really hard?
Okay, so our intra-abdominal pressure, which you know of because of powerlifting, anybody who's powerlifted has heard of that term. One thing that we do as powerlifters is we increase pressure so that we can have a strong braced core.
Correct.
And we keep that pressure high so that we're pushing against our belt and it's rigid. We want our spine to be rigid. So when there's a lid on top and there's a lid kind of on the bottom, and
the bottom being the pelvic floor.
The bottom being the pelvic floor, yeah. So that pressure can escape even when you have your closed glottis, you hold your breath.
Yep.
That's your top lid. That pressure can escape. It's easier to hold your throat, your glottis closed, than it is to hold your pelvic floor closed. So that pressure will escape through the pelvic floor. So that's why you see powerlifters, mostly it's female powerlifters, will experience incontinence, meaning they deadlift, that pressure's super high and it's starting to escape through the pelvic floor and their pelvic floor is just kind of failing. In the case of powerlifting, it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong. It's just like, yeah, dude, that's your weakest link. Like your grip is sometimes your weakest link in your deadlift. I just see you peed on the floor. Your weakest link is your pelvic floor. It happens. It's a problem when you're lifting like 80% and you can't help but pee.
Got it.
So that intra-abdominal pressure is how, so when you're lifting weights, one strategy that we have, and it is sort of like theory at this point, one strategy that we have is, okay, instead of trying to spike that pressure way up, first of all, you can't avoid spiking your intra-abdominal pressure when you have a barbell on your back or you're exerting yourself. So instead of holding our breath and trying to raise that pressure as much as we can, we're going to breathe through the lift. So we're not going to close glottis, hold our breath. We're going to breathe out on exertion, and your breath, your diaphragm, this is your diaphragm, and your pelvic floor are all connected. So every time you breathe, it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. So if I can breathe out on exertion, my diaphragm raises up and so does my pelvic floor.
Okay.
So that's why sometimes you will see pregnant lifters will breathe out on exertion to also cue their pelvic floor coming up.
Got it.
So I'm like tightening my pelvic floor to avoid any risk of prolapse or try to avoid any risk of prolapse. I'm trying.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like proven. This is all theory at this point. Super hard to study. You can like stick something up your butt to like test your true intra-abdominal pressure. We know some of that through studies like that. But it is theory. It was like, if you're lifting really heavy, you might want to use some of these strategies because then you're not bearing down on your pelvic floor.
So using the squat as an example, when you are going down in the eccentric, you wouldn't be bearing down. You'd be inhaling?
Yep. You're inhaling on the way down, and on exertion when it's hard, you're breathing out.
Okay.
And a lot of people will do this sound. Sorry, I'm going to try not to.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't want to do it right in the mic. So this sound, if you try it, you can let me know. Try it, and then let me know, do you feel anything in your body?
I mean, I feel my abs contracting before I even do it.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, so that sound, a lot of, if you ever see a woman, most likely, lifting and she's making that sound, she might be cueing her pelvic floor to come up because naturally your transverse abs start to draw in.
Yep.
Pelvic floor is connected to those two, and it starts to draw up.
Got it.
So if you ever hear that,
so is that
bodybuilders do it
is
too,
that a
but-
preferred way? You know what's funny is that's actually what I do.
Yeah?
Like I when I was powerlifting, I would obviously hold my breath and squeeze, but I started to get tension headaches.
Oh, okay.
And so when I would keep all of that in and I would essentially, do the closed glottis and keep all this pressure, it's like, this doesn't feel good. I'd get headaches from lifting. So I just naturally started doing like that. Is there a difference between that and maybe like more pursed lips where like instead of going that, you go like, Is that a different?
I would say it's similar.
Similar, okay.
It's similar. Sometimes I don't know what it is about this sound. It automatically like wraps your TVA. So if you ever have a hard time thinking of your transverse abs, which no one ever thinks about until you get to this window again, that is a great cue and usually works for most people.
Okay. That's very interesting. Are there any exercises that specifically train the pelvic floor, or is it just strength training while thinking about this?
Oh yeah, you would do a Kegel. What people know
that's
a Kegel.
okay.
Sometimes there's some sort of like discourse around Kegels. Usually only focus on the contraction part.
Okay.
Where it's sort of, I don't know what the split is, but I personally in my life know people who struggle with they are too relaxed in the pelvic floor, and then the complete opposite problem where they're always holding tension. So instead of holding tension in their shoulders, they hold tension in their pelvic floor. So you can't see it. I can see someone's like, oh, you look a little stressed. You can't see it in the pelvic floor. You only see it when you're deadlifting. That's usually those people who are deadlifting 50% and they're having incontinence. It's because they're always up here.
Interesting.
They're always engaged. Like if I was always flexing my bicep, I can't flex anymore.
Right.
So you experience incontinence.
Interesting.
So that's kind of the story around Kegels. Usually people only think of, oh, the Kegel is the contraction, but a bicep curl isn't just this part. A bicep curl is this part and then this part. So you do have to also train the relaxation.
How do you do that?
Okay, imagine you're in a bath and your vagina
I did not
and
expect you
anus.
to go.
So there's tons of cues for this.
Yep.
There's the elevator cue, where if you think about your pelvic floor, you would raise the elevator up to the 5th floor.
That's the Kegel, right?
Yep, that's the contraction.
Concentric, okay.
And then you would relax and go back down to the floor 0.
Okay.
This is, men also have pelvic floor
I'm
issues
doing it right
as
now.
well. Yeah. And men usually see it in the form of hemorrhoids. So if you've ever lifted really heavy and you have experienced hemorrhoids, that is a pelvic floor issue. Tons of guys deal with this. I have a friend who was talking about this actually on a podcast, and I texted him. I'm like, hey, he was talking about, he's struggling with hemorrhoids, and he also has a pretty significant diastasis.
Oh, really?
Natural diastasis, yeah. And so I'm like, I bet those are connected because your pelvic floor and your transverse abs aren't activating.
Yep.
So these might be connected. I would go to a pelvic floor physical therapist and see. So yeah, men struggle with this too. So they are good things to be aware of, especially if you have symptoms like that. So elevator cue, go all the way up to the 5th floor and then go back down to level 0. You can also think about, being in a bath and like fully just like letting yourself relax and like your vagina and your anus are like a flower and they're just like blooming open. Some of them get a little woo-woo.
I like it.
The elevator cue is a little more straightforward. But yeah, there are a ton of different exercises that you can do. People will do holds where you hold it and then you can layer on, okay, I'm holding it. I'm holding my pelvic floor, then I'm layering on my transverse abs because these are all connected to each other.
Got it.
Usually when you do a transverse abs move or that activation, you add a pelvic floor lift to like layer on.
Okay. That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Do you have like a sets and reps or days per week, or is this like a grease the groove type thing? Like how do you structure this?
You can progress in time and holds. Well, not usually, but you do want to get to the point where your pelvic floor work is sort of like a warm up before training.
Okay.
And then eventually it should get to the point where things are healed, especially when you're like now I'm 4 months postpartum. So for me personally, I don't have to do extra pelvic floor work.
Got it.
But I am thinking about a lot of these things. And during my like adductor work is a great time because those are so closely connected to think about pelvic floor. It just makes it a little, I feel stronger when I do a pelvic floor lift when I'm doing like a Copenhagen.
Yeah.
A lot of people report that exercise is super painful for them.
That makes
sense. And I give the cue, okay, add a pelvic floor lift and see if that changes anything for you. You might just feel stronger.
More stability through their pelvic floor as they do that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Thank you for that because I didn't know any of that.
Now you know.
Now I know.
Yeah.
When my vagina and asshole are blooming like a flower.
Blooming like a flower. And then someone just walked in the door, suck it right back up.
You brought up diastasis. Can you talk about that in whatever capacity you see people having questions about it or having issues with it, men, women, just can you talk more about that?
People always ask, I have a diastasis. I've had it for 5 years. Is it too late for me? No, it's not too late.
So what is a diastasis?
Okay, a diastasis is the separation of your six-pack muscles.
Okay.
So your six-pack muscles are connected by a ligament called the linea alba.
Okay.
So the linea alba just runs right here, connects your abs, and then when you're pregnant, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the linea alba, I think it stretches to be like 7 times its normal length.
Shut up.
And then it goes back to normal size.
That's wild.
The body is crazy.
It's
right?
amazing.
Yes. And I think that's the only, is it a ligament or a tendon? It's the only like organ of the body, tissue of the body that can do that. So super interesting, but a lot of people struggle with the separation still being there or laxity of their core.
Okay.
So sometimes you can see people who have that loss of tension in that linea alba, their fingers, when you just like poke them, let's say, they sink on down. You feel like you could like grab a kidney or something. Like they just sink on down. It looks really funny. It looks really weird.
Yeah.
So in postpartum, everyone's going to deal with this. Like every person who's gone through pregnancy, especially a full-term pregnancy, will deal with that separation. It's just natural.
Okay.
A lot of the healing happens on your own.
Okay.
But some people struggle with regaining that core tension because their muscles have been stretched. Their muscles just aren't as strong as they used to be prior to the phase. And they have to get them stronger. So they have to train. And so if you're 5 years down the line and you still have a diastasis, you can work to strengthen those muscles and improve that tension in your core.
Okay. And what if you're just immediately postpartum? Like what exercises would you recommend? Is this more like dead bugs and like hollow body holds, or like
Yes.
what are you prescribing for?
Yes, for sure. All kinds of exercises like that, what you would think, the typical core movements. You do want to keep an eye on symptoms
Okay.
of like, oh, my core isn't ready for this.
Okay.
So with that pressure cue, there's something that can happen, especially if you have that separation and like your muscles are just lax, all the tissues are just lax and relaxed. You can start to see pressure like poking through.
Is that the doming?
Yes. So there's doming and there's combing.
Oh, okay.
No, okay, not combing like your hair, coning.
Okay.
So the doming kind of looks like a bread loaf. It can happen to anybody. So if you think about, I have my hip bones here, and then just I'm doing a plank,
Yep.
and I can just see a dome of my abdomen coming out. Coning is specifically for this. It's pressure coming through in between the six-pack muscles.
Is that on the
it's
linea alba? Is it like directly above it?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So that's pressure that's pushing against the linea alba.
Okay.
Usually you can see both with either any exercise. But a lot of times when you are in like a plank or in a push-up position, you'll see doming. And if you've ever felt like, planks aren't effective for me, it could mean that you're doming. So you're just letting your rectus abdominis just floating in space. You're not activating your core as much. Your six-pack muscles might be activated, but your TVA is also known as like a corset muscle.
Yeah.
So it starts at your spine and it wraps around and it meets at the linea alba. So you want to, when you do a core, be able to cue that, and you can cue it with the sound. So when you're doing a plank, think about and tightening. That belly button will draw in, and you'll remedy the doming until you get tired. And that's a good sign to rest.
Why is doming an issue?
So doming just means that usually it means that your TVA is not firing.
Okay.
So is it bad? Is it going to hurt you? No, probably not. Even with coning, it's probably not going to hurt you. There's some arguments that say it might. I'll get into that. But doming just means that, your core is made up of a bunch of different muscles, and I can see that you're not using this really big one that you should be training. And like, think about the corset muscle. A lot of people want to have a flat stomach. Okay, your corset muscle is the one that trains the muscle that can make it flatter.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes total sense. Thank you for that.
I love talking about pregnancy stuff and like the core and core rehab. It's like super interesting. It's my favorite thing.
Did you, for you personally, after either the first or the second pregnancy, do anything different for your core training?
Not as much, but I did keep an eye on those symptoms. I would say now my core looks better because I probably used to dome every exercise. Like think about a V-sit or a sit-up. I was definitely doming where you can just kind of see like, oh, my stomach is protruding out. And now I know how to better cue my core. So I can notice when I get lean, my core is much more developed. Like it looks stronger.
That makes sense. Is that just through those basic exercises that you've done through training your TVA? And is that just that?
Yeah. For using some of the pelvic floor work and then adding on like TVA hold, kind of same thing as the pelvic floor hold, but like layer on TVA.
Like vacuums?
Very similar to a vacuum.
Okay.
Slightly different cueing, but very similar.
So
yes.
what's the difference?
So a vacuum, you're kind of trying to like hollow out under your ribs. And that's not a cue that I would use for someone trying to just train their TVA. But outside of that, it's very, very similar.
Okay. But you see value in that type of an exercise for this specific population?
Yes.
Okay. And is that like a 2 times a week type thing? Because when a lot of people hear this stuff, I get it all the time. Like, I'm just going to do this every day.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm just going to do, it's like, and I've found that's one of the worst things people can do unless they're following a specific like Grease the Groove style program, which they're having a much lower intensity, but they're treating it more like practice. Is this something that you would treat more like practice and do it every day? Or is this something you would say like, you should do this 2 to 3 times a week in the gym?
For breathing and pelvic floor connection, so connecting the exhale with the pelvic floor lift like we talked about, I would do that every day.
Okay.
It could be just 10 breaths every day in the morning when you wake up or before you go to bed.
So just 1 set of 10 is good?
Yes.
Awesome.
And that is just training because you're breathing like 52,000 times a day.
Right.
So hopefully you get to the point where you're training it every day. And then throughout that day, 52,000 times your pelvic floor is moving. Like think about like if I never moved my bicep just in general, regardless of lifting, I would atrophy. So thinking about you don't want your pelvic floor to atrophy. So it should be moving in tandem with your diaphragm.
Okay.
So if you can connect that with some training, most people don't have it connected because they're stressed. We're like holding our pressure up here. So like I'm holding our pressure down here in our pelvic floor. So we just don't have that training and nobody ever taught us how to breathe. So our modern world where everyone is stressed out, you might need to readdress your breathing patterns.
Okay.
Especially if you have symptoms of pelvic floor issues.
Okay. And so this is something you could do daily basis. Think of it more like practice. Think of it as something that like, I want to get in the habit of doing this.
Yes. And then I'll incorporate usually on my training days more intense, like higher intensity. Okay, we do the breathing exercises on a more regular basis. And now we're doing a hold where it's like actually hard, thinking about like a vacuum or thinking about that TVA hold before my training. Then I can feel that muscle activating before I get into squats where I'm connecting everything else.
And is that like a 10-second hold, 30-second hold?
You can work it up to like 30-second holds. Yeah, it's usually what we aim for.
Okay.
That'll progress from like 15 to 20 and then like 30.
Amazing. That's super helpful. I briefly want to go back to the lifting heavy with pregnancy. Where did that myth come from that people thought it was bad to lift heavy during pregnancy?
I'm sure there was some study back in the day that said like, oh, you shouldn't do this. But I think a lot of it are misinterpreted studies. So for example, I think there was a study back in the day that correlated lifting your arms overhead to likelihood of the umbilical cord being wrapped around the baby's neck. And that I think has been debunked. Okay. And
there's a correlation study.
I don't know.
Okay.
Somewhere in the scientific literature, someone made this claim or assumption. Maybe it's an assumption. Anyway, that has become an old wives' tale where, oh, I don't want to do any lat pull downs because I'm lifting my arms overhead. I'm like, it is completely impractical for you to never lift your arms overhead.
Right.
So this just doesn't make sense. Like there's no way that they could control a study that where someone never lifted their arms overhead unless you had a big cohort of people who just don't have arms. and then you
Yeah.
could steady it. But that would be
Or
impossible
you
to
do something
study.
overhead, then you get a sonogram. Oh, now it's wrapped around the neck. Like, it's the
Exactly.
only way you could do that.
Yeah. So I think claims are made and then they just get passed from generation to generation. So I think in the case of lifting weights, I'm sure the concern would be same as the concern for why we don't want kids to lift weights. But even in postpartum, sometimes we'll get general blanket claims like, oh, you shouldn't lift anything over 40 pounds. Well, my car seat plus my bag, and you expect me to lug this baby
Right.
everywhere.
Good luck.
And I need to be able to train for that. I need to be able to be strong enough for that. So I'm sure it comes from a lot of different things, but also just Gen Pop people are afraid of lifting weights, period.
Correct.
So I'm sure, we have a higher risk population of pregnant women. They definitely shouldn't lift weights. So it sucks because lifting weights can solve a lot of the pain issues that we see in pregnant people.
When you are lifting weights and you're pregnant, do you reduce the load at all, either just because you're trying to be aware of how much you're lifting, or is that just because I'm pregnant now and like I'm in my third trimester and like I just physically can't?
Right.
Are there thoughts around how much of a difference, like should there be a difference at all on how much you're lifting, or is it just purely based on how you feel?
Yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
I think in my first pregnancy, I was definitely a little bit more cautious. It was the first time doing this. I was like, had a lot of fears around doing something wrong. Second pregnancy, I told you I squatted like 225 on my due date. I was just like, fuck it. And so it seems like intensity should be lowered, can be lowered, but that really is dependent on your symptoms and what you're dealing with. And maybe that's the case for certain lifts and not others. Obviously, if the higher my load of weight on the bar, I have a little bit higher likelihood of something going wrong. So that is a concern. And maybe we want to make a choice based on that. Maybe I don't feel good. Maybe I spent the first 12 weeks in the first trimester not lifting at all because I was too sick, which can be the case for a lot of people. It seems like from my first pregnancy to the second, so let's say there's 3.5 years in between those, people were definitely more open to what was found as far as intensity, and lowering intensity not needing to be as important. So, and that's just like really new research that seems to suggest that we might not have to lower it as much as we thought. We might not have to stay in like RPE 6 through 8 for everything,
Right.
which is usually the recommendation. Like, yeah, leave a few in the tank. I mean, I think a great example was Tia Claire Toomey was going hard during her entire pregnancy and postpartum, showing in videos signs of coning. And I think a colleague that she worked with, who's a pelvic floor physical therapist, kind of came on and said like, yeah, we see coning, but like there's not really anything that tells us, yes, 100% coning bad. And there's not anything that tells us coning means this. We don't know.
That makes sense.
And you can look at her and it's like, she's not weak.
Correct.
Like she's doing great. And if she had good outcomes, then that does give us some information. That doesn't mean that you're going to have the same outcomes. Most likely not. It's Tia Claire Toomey. But, there are examples of people, like, it just doesn't mean blanket coning bad. Don't do that. Never do that. Don't push yourself that hard.
That makes sense.
It is information to make choices for yourself.
Tell me what you think about this. My thoughts go to, I'm trying to understand the discourse, the arguments. My thoughts go to this. And because you're a coach, most people have no idea what's going on with their body, like the average person. When someone is more intermediate, leaning towards advanced lifter, they're really in touch with their body. They know what's going on. They know how to, quote unquote, activate certain muscles, how to, like, you could put a bar on your back and squat really heavy while also basically relaxing your abs and doing nice breathing. Whereas someone who doesn't know what's going on, you put a bar on their back, like they're going to tense up like crazy. Their technique is going to change. They don't know what muscles they're using or where or why. I would imagine that for someone who's very in tune with their body and is a higher level lifter and is aware of what's going on, they could probably go relatively intense in terms of weight being used, heavy, because they know what's going on with their body. But someone who maybe is more new to weightlifting, they should probably exercise some more caution because they don't know what's going on with their body and they don't know if they're going to be pressing too hard. Or is that correct? What are your thoughts?
Yes, I think so. And they understand, advanced level athletes will be able to feel a lift and understand almost immediately what's my weakest link.
Yes.
In the middle of the lift, they'll be able to feel, oh, my grip is slipping. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, my hips are this way.
Yep.
They just know. And it's super hard to get to that point. But that's sort of the idea of where there's general blanket advice that's given to pregnant people. And it's, hey, don't do anything you didn't do before.
Yep.
And I think if you really wanted to start lifting weights and you're pregnant, this is a good time to start.
Yeah.
Like if you can do it with some help, or you can start in your first trimester and just do some body weight stuff and start to get a feel for everything. 12 weeks is a good amount of time to go from super beginner to like almost intermediate. Like give it another 12 weeks and you'll be intermediate. So you can learn a lot in that time, especially great if you can do it with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yep.
But that train of thought is definitely where that recommendation of don't do anything, you don't do anything new, or keep doing what you were doing, can be a little confusing advice. Because if I were scuba diving before, that's something that is absolutely contraindicated during pregnancy. So it's like, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Now this is like 0.2% of the population maybe. But there are things that are absolutely contraindicated, and there are things that are like exercise some caution. Mm-hmm. And lifting weights is one of those where it's like, okay, if you're brand new and you have no athletic ability and you don't know how to hip hinge, that's a sign like maybe hire a trainer before you get into this. But if you're able to build some muscle in that first trimester, which is totally possible, like you could be setting yourself up for better outcomes.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point in terms of the building muscle. What I think, when a lot of people hear strength training, number one, they don't know what that means. Like, what the hell is strength training? Mm-hmm. Like, does that like bodybuild? They think bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But often people hear building muscle, and I think a lot of people who are even maybe intermediates now are confused about building muscle, because we see in the fitness industry, everyone's like, the only way you're going to build muscle is if you train to failure and you got to train really heavy. It's like, if you're a beginner, you could lift super submaximal 20, 30, 40% of your 1 rep max and build muscle. So I think that people get confused and hear, okay, well, if I'm going to build muscle, I have to be training to failure. I have to be training super intensely. It's like, if you're a beginner, in my opinion, you don't need to be training that intensely and that heavy. I think you should be focusing on technique, movement, habits, and yeah, absolutely getting stronger, but getting stronger doesn't have to mean maxing out, especially if you haven't done this before.
Yeah. And the hardest thing for someone not lifting anything to lifting something will be showing up to the gym.
Yes.
So a lot of times we'll have, it's like, we'll talk about this and it's like, yeah, but you don't, I said this recently where it's like proper form is overrated, which is kind of,
I agree,
contrary to what you're saying. But it's sort of like you need the experience of actually lifting to go from like complete NARP, non-athletic, regular person to someone who's able to like start building muscle. Cause it's like, you need to actually like do it first and like, okay, get into the squat pattern and do it 100 times literally. And then maybe we could talk about form, like after you have 1,000 reps in you of like body weight squats, and just like let your body do what it thinks that you should do and what feels natural. But I agree 100%. Like, person who's pregnant, they are going to be literally starting at zero. Like, start with your body weight first, and then maybe we could add a training bar, a 15-pound training bar. But even before then, I'll just give you a book to hold or something. Yeah. So yeah, you can just like really take baby steps at like finally getting there.
Let's talk about form being overrated. I think this is a good topic. And it doesn't even have to be pregnancy related. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah.
I think that form is your what's correct form is going to be different for every person based on how you're built, your anthropometry, like your leverages. It's going to be different, and what's going to feel good for you. I do think that early on, it's important to learn quote unquote safer movement patterns, and that's a big like what is safer, but safer movement patterns. But then once you learn that and you build enough strength in those patterns, then you can start to break the rules. And you can like Jefferson curls or whatever it is. What are your thoughts?
I like that. I got cooked when I made this
I bet you did.
Oh my gosh, people were so upset because I can see it when you see someone who has horrible form.
Yep.
And they're lifting like the bar is loaded. You know what I mean?
It's bending.
And I know that. And you just cringe thinking about it. And I think that's why people are, I think that physical feeling of like thinking about it and like just cringing when you see somebody is part of it. And then the other part is that people, at least on the internet where they cooked me, they have this like superiority where it's like, oh, if you're stronger than me, at least I know that my form is better than yours.
Yeah, of
100%.
course.
So I think all the people who are cooking me, I think that's who they are. But I feel strongly that people are overthinking things 100% of the time.
Yep.
And ego lifting doesn't happen for people who are true beginners. Now, ego lifting and when people get hurt is when their form breaks down a lot. So that cringy like feeling that you have is usually you're watching someone who is lifting a bar that shouldn't be loaded for them, and their form is breaking down and you're cringing because it's so heavy. So that is kind of the visual that we see. I'll give you an example. My realtor, love this guy. I hired him because he's jacked, okay? He is super strong, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, oh, Meg, I'm done deadlifting. I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean? What happened? And he's like, I just keep pulling my back out. And I'm like, oh, let's talk about, have you ever tried maybe a trap bar deadlift or something? Let's adjust the movement, see if we can get him back to deadlifting. I think he should be deadlifting. He's a big dude. And he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, why? He's like, well, I train with these guys. And I'm like, oh, it's the guys. It's the guys. You're training with this group of Brian, my realtor, he's probably in his 40s. He's training with a group of guys who are like 30, sub 30. And they're loading what they want to load on the bar.
Conventional
and he's
deadlifting.
Lifting with them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, so it's not the deadlift, it's the load.
Yeah.
You need a different load than they do. Hello, wake up. So his immediate reaction, and this is someone who's pretty advanced lifter, like I would say intermediate lifter. And this is where it's like, this is how you get a lifetime intermediate. So he's like on that cusp of becoming advanced, jacked, but in the like powerlifting world, he would stay intermediate forever. So he's more of like a bodybuilding guy now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, it's not the deadlift. It's not your form. It's the fact that your form is breaking down and then you're throwing out your back because you are ego. That's ego lifting. Your super green beginner is not doing that, I hope. And
Sometimes, occasionally.
But that's where you see maybe they're like a high school footballer, but even then they are
usually
like their
a young
form
dude.
might look beginner, but they've been lifting for a while.
Yep.
So it's like they know that their form should be better. It's not like the beginners that you really have to worry about, in my opinion, from what I see. Now I work with a certain type of population, but yeah, I will say proper form is overrated and the load management is underrated.
Yeah.
That's where people go
That's a
wrong.
fair statement.
And that's where your form goes horrible to shit.
Yeah. I agree completely. Load management is underrated. I also think that something that is very under-discussed, in my opinion, people often talk about strength training is it's going to bulletproof your body. I don't like when they say that because there's no way you're going to bulletproof your body, number one. But also, if you're in the game long enough, you're going to get hurt. Like, I don't know anyone who's reached an intermediate level without some ache, pain, little injury here and there. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
Now, it's probably not probably, it's definitively better to strength train than to not. But in any athletic endeavor, including strength training, there's probably going to be some aches and pains and injuries along the way. And it might not have anything to do with technique. It might just be, this is part of the process.
Right. It's super complicated. Like,
yes.
It's really hard to make the claim that everyone cooking me in the comments makes, where it's like 100% bad form equals injury.
Nope.
Like, that is impossible. You can't make that claim because we don't know that.
Correct. At all.
And it's, more and more people are saying, like, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you could have perfect form in a lift and still get injured. Now, I would say that's probably, look at my claims, probably more rare than if you have really shit form and you're misgrooving technically. But people have a little twinge or overuse injury is probably more common.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right to an extent. I would say that you are advanced level.
Well, of course.
Where you personally, but me even just coming back and being postpartum, I'm taking it relatively easy. And I'm waking up and I'm like, oh, I'm too sore. I need to up my protein. Like that's the kind of aches and pains that should be expected.
Yes, of course.
And the only time I experienced a true overuse injury was when I was powerlifting, and it was like a width adjustment, like a stance adjustment, because it was overuse.
Yep.
And I was being super specific. So I think programming has some to do when it comes to overuse injuries and like understanding your body, which is hard.
Yeah.
But when people are speaking of like good form, usually they imagine, oh, you got a cat back deadlift, you're going to hurt yourself. Plenty of people do cat back deadlifts all the time, and then they're not injured at all.
And they have no issues whatsoever.
They're fine. So it's super hard to make that like definitive claim with anything.
You said this phrase, and we all use it. You have to know your body. But when we break it, like knowing your body, I think the only way you can get to know your body is sometimes by crossing the line.
Yeah.
By like going, like when you know about your overuse injuries because you did it, you crossed the line. You know about your nutrition because you crossed the line. Mm-hmm. And now it helps you with other people, and you can explain, hey, listen, I think you're thinking about food way too much. Maybe want to talk to a professional. I think you're way overthinking your technique. Just manage the load better because you've experienced it. And I think that's one of the amazing things about when you and we've crossed the line with ourselves, we can then hopefully try and help other people not go as far. But I think that if you want to reach a high level of anything, whether it's business, fitness, whatever, you're probably going to have to cross some lines along the way. I don't think that doesn't mean you can't reach a proficient level. But if you want to reach a high level in basically anything, lines are going to have to be crossed, and there will be some injuries. There will be some times, for whatever it's worth, for me, I've noticed I'm most likely to get injured, not when my technique goes shit, but when I get horrible sleep. If I get terrible sleep, I'm almost always more likely to get injured. So now, almost 34, which I understand is young, now I know if I have terrible sleep, I'm not going to lift really heavy. Because I've experienced it way too many times where I throw my back out, something happens. But that's just from knowing myself now, from experiencing those injuries and having those experiences prior to now.
Yeah, you're auto-regulating.
Yes.
Which, when you're super green, you don't know how to do that
at all.
But you got to just eat the shit and go through it.
Yes.
And that's why proper form is overrated. Because it's like, okay, it's meaning that beginners are lifting with the broomstick quite literally for too long.
Too long. Way
and they're
too
not
long.
adding load because they're like so afraid, or they've got the group of bros being so afraid, like making them so afraid.
Yep.
So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I also think that people hear the word overrated, and for some wild reason, they think that overrated means it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or they hear the word underrated and they think that it's like, it's just not good. It's like, that's not what we're saying. We're saying in the current context of how it's being portrayed today. For example, one of the movements that infuriates me right now in the fitness industry is the people who are all about precise line of pull to activate the right. Like,
I don't even know this. What is it?
I want your feed. Whatever you see on your feed is better than what I
Precise
see.
line of
Like you
pull.
need to make sure that you're getting the exact right line of pull for
Are
the
we calling
precise.
this optimal training?
Yeah, like optimal. Like you want to make sure that you have the exact right angle so that you get the exact right muscle recruitment so that you can optimize hypertrophy. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Just lift the weight.
Yeah.
Just lift the weight. It's you don't see this? What's on your feed?
A bunch of pregnant people, probably. I do see the optimal bros.
Yeah.
And of course, I make videos on good form.
Yeah, of course.
And how to adjust things to make it feel better. So it's like I'm living, a double life. But yes, I do. That's sort of the inspiration for why I said proper form is overrated, because it's like, oh yeah, you can overthink this to death.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, in order to know your body, you are going to have to just get thousands of reps in.
Yes.
And watching these TikTok videos or Instagram videos can be helpful at some time. But what's more helpful is just you going in and training.
Yes.
And sometimes like adding a little bit of load, or maybe even a little bit more, or even adding a load that you don't yet feel ready for.
Yep.
Because plenty of people need a load to get in the right position. So like going back to the broomstick and going back and working on form and stopping, like don't go any heavier because your form kind of broke down. It's sort of like,
I've got butt wink with the broomstick. Of course you got butt wink with the
Yeah.
broomstick. Like it's too light.
yeah. So yeah, the load can help you get there faster.
Yeah. It's also, and I guarantee you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes their technique will be way worse when they overthink it. Whereas when they just stop thinking and they just do what their body wants to do, which can be difficult. I understand it's much easier said than done, but everything is easier said than done. So I hate when people say that. But so I think one of the worst things a coach can do is over cue, make them think that if they don't have the exact right technique with the exact right line of pull, with the exact, they're going to ruin everything. Their back is going to break everything. No, just fucking move.
Yeah.
And you'll find it. You'll find it eventually.
We've got both feet on the ground, and then you're just going up and down.
That's it. That's
You're
it.
just going up and down. So it's like your body, will figure out a way to get that done.
Yes.
Just naturally. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been in beginner lifting seminars, and I've seen people who just it is impossible for them to hip hinge. They don't know. I'm like, how do you sit on the toilet? I don't understand how you do. But you do have to teach a hip hinge because that's so unnatural for some people. But that is I would say that is maybe 5% of people.
Correct. Maybe less.
Yes. In a group of people, you might have one person who really needs some extra help. And it is clear this person has never really been an athlete.
Yep.
They just don't have an athletic background. So that's okay.
Yeah.
It's super easy to teach.
Yes.
You need one hands-on session or maybe two, and you will be good to go. But yeah.
But it's funny because for those people, it's the simplest cues that make the biggest difference. It's like, sit down on the toilet.
Yeah.
Stand up. That's it.
Can you have your butt touch the wall here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's
you
it.
did it.
You figured it out.
did
That's it. And it's not like, okay, so we're going to anteriorly pelvic tilt and then we're going to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Actually, I had the opportunity to train my little brother. I started training with him when my brother's much younger than me. He was, I think, 8 when we started training together. And deadlift, I couldn't figure out. I'm like, dude, this kid's deadlift sucks. It looks bad. And
Was
I'm
it a conventional deadlift?
Yes. And I'm
Okay.
like, you know what? Switch to sumo. And he's perfect sumo puller.
Yeah.
I think kids just pull better sumo for some reason, just as a rule. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't need any cues at all. He just needed to change one, just do a different lift a little bit. Okay.
I love sumo.
Yeah.
I love sumo. Is that your favorite deadlift variation?
I've been training conventional more often because postpartum, I trained sumo for a while to make room for my belly.
Yep.
So I'm back on conventional.
Okay.
And when you're retraining the pelvic floor, it's just a little bit easier. When your legs are open, it's easier to have pelvic floor incontinence.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's
so that's-
really good to know.
You're just more open, your hips are more open. So I've been training conventional.
Do you,
now.
when you're programming for women postpartum, do you basically always start them with a conventional or trap bar deadlift rather than sumo?
Yes. Usually I'll program a main compound as a deadlift, and after a certain point, they can just choose.
Yep.
Like choose your main,
Yep.
Whichever you like.
Sumo,
but I
trap
do
bar, yeah.
usually like postpartum really early. You're not even going to the barbell yet.
Okay.
You're just like training the movement pattern. So you can kind of choose which one. But I do program conventional as the first like main barbell lift. Yeah.
Interesting. That's really helpful for me. So thank you.
Yeah.
Have you received any negative feedback pertaining to how you approached your personal pregnancy, postpartum, parenting, etc.? Any of that?
I'm sure you get people who don't know anything and they're like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Whenever I posted a video of me squatting. I just wanted to see, can I squat 225 on my due date today? I'm 40 weeks pregnant. Let's squat 225. I just wanted to see.
You had to get heat for that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because people often say like, oh, she's putting the baby at risk, which is kind of insulting because it is then more of less of me as a coach or me as what I think about strength training. And it's more of me as a parent and it's a dig. So that's when it becomes personal, which either way, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it for a reason. Could that be seen as a little bit of ego lifting? Yes, but also it's information for me. Like, oh, I can do this. But yeah, that's the worst of it. But I also understand that I probably know more than anyone commenting. Now, if a pelvic floor physical therapist expressed some serious concern, that would be a different opinion. But surprise, I didn't say anything. I think I've learned more from people who have differing opinions on my caution during pregnancy and postpartum, to where maybe at the beginning I was a little bit more cautious than I need to be or what science right now is saying. Mm-hmm. But I have to learn from someone and I'm not doing the studies myself. So I'm glad to have people who help, not so much that they outwardly disagree with me, but they're reporting on research or findings. Like Tia Claire Toomey's coach had some interesting things to say about, hey, maybe we don't need to be that scared of this. And I'm like, that's interesting, because I am a little bit scared of it, because like my body's completely different now. And I want to make sure that I'm leading my clients in the right place. So
especially for your clients. Yes. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Me, I'll squat 225 when I'm 40 weeks pregnant. Who cares? But yeah, so those are situations where it's more of like, who am I listening to? And I'm listening to the right people that I trust and people that know more than me. So I'm thankful for that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember you were doing like a mini cut, or you were trying to lose weight soon, like in the postpartum, and you were getting heat for it.
Oh yeah. I started counting my macros.
Yes.
Just because I feel like,
I thought that was you, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, you're exactly right. So I was interested in counting my macros just because I usually don't. I usually eat whatever I want. But in postpartum, I'm also more active. So like, if you have a goal and you want something for your body, you kind of have to like figure out which way you're going to go. And I had mentioned that I started to count macros just to raise awareness of like what's going on. And, people hear that and I understand where it comes from, but also I'm like, I mean, come on, lady, I'm a fitness professional. Like, what do you expect?
Where do you think it comes from? Because I don't know if I do understand.
Well, I think this is also another example of where it gets personal, because people often hold me to the standard of setting a good example for like my daughters.
Yep.
And so that's like, okay, well, now you're bringing that up and now you're questioning my character and like me being a mom. And so I think people can get really sketched out around fitness pros in general. Maybe a good portion of them are obsessed with looking a certain way or obsessed with food. And maybe a lot of fitness pros do struggle with their own food noise and anxiety around how their body looks. I just am not one of them. So I hope that message comes through, but obviously not to everyone. So maybe the way the Instagram algorithm works, a lot of people see my content who don't know me now, which is a new thing that I'm navigating. I don't know how to post anymore, basically. But So people who don't know me and they say, oh, she's 4 weeks postpartum and she's dieting. What? And it's like, well, I didn't say I was dieting. I just said I'm tracking my macros. I'm raising awareness of my intake and what's going in my body. To me, nothing's wrong with that. To someone else, it might be like huge red flag for them. And so that's where I say I see where it comes from, because people can only look at situations from their own perspective. And so that's a great example of, if you struggle with food and if you struggle with binge eating, kind of like your muffin story, you're like, how is he eating this and not stressed about it? Yeah, that woman might have seen, or people commenting on me tracking my macros at 4 weeks postpartum might see that and be like, how are you doing that and not obsessing over it? Whereas like me, I'm just like opening up an app and taking a picture of my food and scanning a barcode. It's like not that big of a deal. But for some people, it is a huge deal. And for them, it means so much because they have insecurities attached to who they are. And for me, it's just some food.
Do you think that any of it was people look at you as someone who's like not attached to body image? I'm just strength focused. But then there are people who are like, are you going back now? Like you're trying to get back to your pre-pregnancy body, and they felt like betrayed. Was that it?
I think that could be. I think that's something that I've thought about a lot, and I've been nervous about. Anytime I talk about nutrition or diet, you just get so many more opinions, because not everyone lifts, but everyone eats.
Yes.
So you have more diversity in the approach and the baggage. So you just do naturally get a lot of people talking about it. I've gone through so many different phases that I think now at this point, I've had many opportunities to remind people that like one of my core values is autonomy. So it's sort of like, I'm allowed to do whatever I want with my body.
Correct.
I don't care if I'm posting it online or not. And so are you. And you should be able to make that choice. And hopefully if you follow me, you know that I'm making this choice for me. Now, there are people, and I completely understand this, who have said to me, like, I have to stop following you. And that's fine.
Why?
Because of their baggage to food, or their baggage. They
is
can't.
That in response to the macro tracking? Like, I now need to stop following you because you're tracking macros?
Yes. I think not all content, not all conversations are for all people.
Of course.
So if I knew I had a friend who really struggled with their weight, there's plenty of things that I wouldn't say to them.
Yeah.
And plenty of conversations that I would just take more care with if it came up. So kind of like similar to that with someone following you, like I get, if I'm going to be talking about dieting, let's say I did want to do a bodybuilding show, I wouldn't be surprised if some of my audience were like, I'm not ready to see this. I need to like mute you for a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fine.
That makes sense. There's also the other side of that, where there are some things where if you have a friend who's struggling with something, you wouldn't want to bring it up. On the other hand, I think your friend would also be like, but I don't want you to feel like you can't talk about it, right? And I don't want to prevent you from discussing what's going on in your life. So I understand both sides of it.
Yeah.
I also feel like some people are, especially looking at the heat that you got.
I can take it.
I know you can. I just don't understand it. I guess that's where I'm coming from, where it's like, who cares? Even, let's just say, because I know you're just tracking your macros, but let's just say you're like, I want to lose weight and I want to lose whatever, 10, 15 pounds. Like, why is that bad?
Yeah, that was my point. And it's not. Now, if I were 90 pounds and I said I need to lose 10 pounds, you might feel differently.
Of course.
Yeah. So I always try. I'm not perfect, but I try to approach anytime I hear like opposition with some compassion, unless you're cooking me in the comments for saying proper form is overrated. Unacceptable. But I do try, especially when it comes to food and things that just can be sensitive. It's like, okay, I want to see this with compassion, and I understand if this isn't for you. And there's plenty that I post that isn't about this specifically, and it's not who I am. But hopefully I've been able to instill autonomy, which is a core value, whereas counting macros is not a core value of mine, that that communication and that value is more important to you than dieting or losing weight or the conversation around losing weight. Like, hopefully you can I can have compassion and be sensitive when it's warranted, and you can understand that my autonomy is more important than your opinion on this one thing.
Yes, I love that. Well said.
Thanks. It's tricky. It can be tricky.
It is tricky. It's also, you talk about your autonomy and you're doing things for you. I think when you have an audience, it can be difficult because even if you're doing things for you, people feel like you should be doing things for them. And they always want to interject, not always, they often want to inject their opinions and thoughts on it. And it's like, if they don't agree, you could just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
That's a real possibility.
And when you say autonomy, that means a lot of different things today. And so like when I have that value, you can make a lot of assumptions about how I feel about other things too. So I think that's on purpose too. Mm-hmm. So it's like autonomy means autonomy. But yeah. And it's, if you disagree with me, I'm cool.
That's okay.
Listening and understanding. And I'm sure, I know a lot of people follow me who disagree with my core values, but that's fine. I mean, I say them for a reason too. And hopefully like maybe I can teach something new or vice versa. Usually like the comments of an Instagram post aren't the place to do that, but someone reflecting on, hey, this is troubling for me. Not that they said it with that level of like vulnerability. I can read their comment and also read it as, oh, this is them. This is their kind of dig at me, but really they're vulnerable in this. Yeah. And so that's been helpful, being someone who posts a lot of their life and goals on social media as like, oh, this isn't about me. This is a you thing.
Does it ever piss you off?
That I'm thinking of that conversation, people with opposition to that. When she brought up the daughters thing, like, I just wouldn't want my daughters to do this. That's where it's like, okay, now you're making a personal dig. And you're also misunderstanding who I am, because I can say with confidence that I can diet and eat a certain way and that my daughter not even be aware of what's going on. But also I've been where you are. So I know what you're going through. Yeah. And then I got help and I'm on the other side of that. So you're talking to someone who has full compassion for you, and then you're trying to like dig at me as being a parent. Yeah.
How do you respond?
I made a video about it.
Well, so like, how do you respond? Like, not even publicly, but in your own headspace, is there anger? Is there, what happens?
It can be a little annoying, especially because maybe that does speak to a tiny insecurity of mine, where the insecurity would be like, my biggest fear is being a bad parent. And so that's an insecurity of mine. And I've even dealt with this in my own family, where I've like said something to someone else about being a bad parent in my family. My brother, I was like, is this how you want to be a parent? So the same conversation. So you can see that is my insecurity, because I didn't need to say that to him, and I shouldn't have. Should never say that to anyone, right? Unless it's my brother, I can kind of.
You could say it to you.
I'm the only person to say it to my little brother. But I reflected on my conversation with him, and I was projecting 100%, because that's my thing. That's what I'm most scared of in the world, is to be a bad parent. And so I was just laying that on him in a way. And so I can see how someone else can do that. So it digs at me. That's why I responded. Yeah. Whereas like plenty of people I don't respond to who disagree with anything. And it's because it's not important to me to respond.
So how do you like being a mother?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Have you seen the Chapel Roan video where she's like, all my friends who are parents like absolutely hate it?
I did see that. I was like, what are you talking about?
I know. And there's a whole conversation around it, but I think for some people it can be super fun, super easy. I'll say easy. I've been really fortunate for it to be easy because I don't have babies with colic. I think that's a big thing.
That's a big one.
And I have a great partner. Yep. So if you have a couple good things going for you, it can be like super fun. Whereas my mom, I don't think had a very good time at all doing the parenting stuff.
Why not?
Oh, single mom, below the poverty line, every disadvantage that you can think of. Oh, we had it.
Did you have colic as a kid?
No, but I think we were all a pain in the ass in other ways. I'm sure one of us did, my poor mom. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's been awesome. And I'm more on a personal level, like I'm just more on I'm the person who I wanted to be. Like I always wanted to be like super consistent and like really disciplined. I always thought I would be a disciplined person. If I just do 75 hard, I'll get there. And no, I just needed to have a kid. You could do 75 hard, you could get pregnant and have a baby. Same result. So yeah, like if you want a true proof of discipline or like to change your life, have a baby. Horrible advice, but that's what I did, and it seems to be working. Yeah.
So you have one boy and one girl?
No, I have two girls.
You have two girls.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay,
yeah.
so we're the
and
same.
done. No more. No
Done.
We're
done. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there? Well, I'll ask you this: what is one thing that you absolutely love about being a mother, and one thing that's very much surprised you about being a mother?
Okay, I love that it slows me down a bit and really is a true reminder of enjoying the moment. Mm-hmm. Surprised, I am surprised at probably the efficiency thing. I would have always thought, oh, it just takes up all your time, and it does.
It takes up a lot of time.
But you do become more aware of your time in different ways, where I do look back on before parent life. I'm like, what was I doing? Like, really, what was I doing? The answer is whatever I wanted.
Yes.
But a lot of times that meant nothing. Like there were plenty of time that I was wasting, or I would look back and see like, why were you doing that? And I would just work too much. And by work too much, I mean wasting my time with non-important things. So I've gotten much better at not so much delegating, but understanding what's moving the needle in my life and what's actually getting me closer to my goal.
Do your kids do anything funny or anything like obviously probably more your toddler than your newborn? Is there anything like funny that she does?
Yes. Well, my newborn, she makes this sound and it's adorable. So she does have something to contribute. My toddler is getting into musicals.
Oh, wow.
Which is so satisfying for me because I'm big into theater. Like that's one thing Kat
you
and
and
I
Kat,
really
yeah, me as well.
I love musicals, and like I wasn't necessarily a theater kid because
you could have been.
I could have been.
You 100% could have been a theater
into
kid.
it. She's super into Wicked. And she sings all the songs, and she wants to be Glinda. And I'm a huge Ariana Grande fan, so it's just like we're vibing on that.
I love that.
So I signed her up for musical theater camp.
Stop. That's awesome. Is it over the summer?
Yes. It's just like a week-long thing, so we'll kind of see how it goes. But I really...
Do you go with her, or she does it by herself?
I think she does it by herself, but it's like a half-day thing, so I'll be there.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can see... I think they'll have a performance
You'll see
at
a
the
performance,
end. Yes.
Yeah.
So I am looking forward to things that older kids can do, like non-toddlers can do. So,
do you know what the performance will be?
Okay, there's a musical called Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus.
Oh, it's a great book.
Yeah.
It's an amazing book.
They turned it into a musical.
Yeah. It's actually, I remember reading that book with my oldest for the first time. I think that my client, Patty, actually gave it to us. Shout out, Patty. And I remember reading it. I was like, this is actually a very poignant story.
I need to buy it. I haven't read it, so I need to buy it and I need to watch the musical.
I don't want to ruin it
for you. So we can
you.
Prepare for camp.
The entire book, should I tell you?
Yes, spoilers.
The entire story, it's a children's book. Uh-huh. The entire story is like you're in charge of the bus. The bus driver leaves and says, whatever you do, just don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And every page, the pigeon is trying to do all these things to get you to let them drive the bus. Like, oh, come on, it'll be quick. Oh, it's okay. Like, my mom said it'll be fine. And then start screaming, just let me drive the bus. And so you go through all these experiences of this pigeon trying to convince you to do something that you know you're not supposed to do, from like manipulative to kind and generous to angry. And at the end of it, you don't let the pigeon drive the bus. And the bus driver comes back and it's like, oh, thank you so much. But for adults too, but for children to know, it's like no matter what they say, you know what's right. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, regardless of how they approach it. It's really, I remember reading it the first time. I told my wife, I was like, this is beautiful. This is a great lesson.
I need to get it because I fear that I am the person to not let my pigeon daughter ride the bus, and she will try every little which way. And usually it's like a screen time thing where we're trying screen-free household.
Are you?
So now she's like, I can just watch the phone outside on the porch. I'm like, girl.
It's not in the house.
Yeah. She found a little way. So
how's that going screen-free?
I fear that we broke it yesterday, but we don't watch a ton of stuff. We like to watch The Masked Singer together as a family.
Okay.
So we do have like a show that we all watch. So it's like a thing that we do. So we'll do that maybe like once a week, but it's going okay. There's a huge difference in her mood specifically.
Oh, interesting.
Whereas like same with anything. There's some people who can be iPad babies and be like themselves.
Yep.
I'm not that person.
You're not.
I know. I really struggle with being on my phone too much.
Okay.
And it affects my mental health.
How?
I think, well, first of all, my eyes start to get a little dry physically. And then I realize, plenty of people have horrible opinions and I'm just consuming them. I'm consuming bad opinions all day, some good opinions. But it's like about a 50-50 split at this point on my algorithm. And I'm sure certain apps want to show me the bad 50, so I get pissed and I keep scrolling. And so I need to not be an iPad baby is what it is for me.
Yeah.
And I think my daughter is the same way.
That makes sense. Because does she get into a bad mood?
When it's taken away.
Oh, got it. So once it's gone, then it's like,
yes.
Got it. Okay.
And I don't like, I think people should do whatever they want with their own kids.
Yeah,
So this
of course.
is just me and my fam. But I don't like that taking it away. She's not able to take it away for herself.
Yep.
And I notice habitually, like when she hasn't had as much of it, she's okay. When you say, okay, time to give it away, she'll turn it off herself and give it back to you.
Got it. Whereas
But
if
then
she
when
has
she
a
said
lot,
too much, she's like, freaking out.
I didn't realize. I feel like the most judgmental community in the world are like parents of other parents.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not involved in every community, but
Parents of other parents. Like grandparents?
No. I'm sorry. Like people
But yeah, they suck.
judging other people, parents judging other parenting styles.
Yes.
So like no screen time. Like there are some people like we're not watching a lot of TV, but we also let my daughter use the iPad occasionally. And the people who are like, you're destroying. I'm like, you're literally on your phone right now, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, relax. They get very judgmental.
And I think I noticed with my brother, like they have, I don't know what their rules or in screen time are, but I'm like, dude, my brother can be on his phone and I think it doesn't affect him mentally.
Yeah.
Obviously we're different people, but I'm like, dude, if I were on my phone like that, like I think I would go crazy, but that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like that's my own mental problem. Like that's my own problem. And so it's not fair for me to look at what he does for himself and like make that judgment. Just same as.
So screen for your house, does that mean like when you're in front of your kids, you're not on your phone at all?
Correct.
Got it. So they don't see you doing that.
Correct.
Got it. How's that been for you?
That's probably better for me. For my husband, same thing. He doesn't have issue with it. Like
he's fine.
Like people's horrible opinions don't piss him off as much as they do me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine.
So they do piss you off.
Yeah, a little bit. It's more about like Chapel Roan saying parenting sucks like that. I'm like, come on. None of my business. Like, why would that bother me? It doesn't. It shouldn't.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
You know you're wrong.
Like that. Like when you open your phone first thing in the morning. I don't do that anymore, but I remember like this is like in 2018. I remember opening my phone. The first thing I saw was like, I couldn't tell you what it is, but some dumb opinion. I was just like, that just pissed me off. I'm putting my phone in the kitchen now.
Yeah.
Like I made that choice a long time ago, but it just that's my thing.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like it is, and the way people position opinions now, the way social media picks them up are the more divisive, the better.
Correct.
And so the ones that we're seeing are these, and sometimes they're bad takes or takes that don't make sense
At all.
And so I'm like, Mark Zuckerberg, what are we doing? Can you please stop this madness? So, yeah.
All right, so I have a few more questions. This one question is a question I've been asking everyone who's a coach or a lifter. It's a recurring question. Throughout your training career, not like training other people, but for your own lifting, what was your favorite or like peak time in the gym, like for you and out of your whole life as a lifter? What's been the most fun time that you've had in the gym?
Here, the environment is everything. So I met my husband at a gym called Balance Gym DC, Washington, DC. So me and all my friends, we're like young professionals. We don't have any responsibilities. Lots of them have government jobs, so they're just working 9 to 5 anyway.
Yeah.
We're all smooth sailing in life for the most part, but we would all train together for hours, like way too long in the gym. And a lot of us were doing powerlifting or strongman, and we were just exploring the world of lifting and just having fun with it. And we would do competitions together. On Saturdays, we would have heavy lift day and then go get like pancakes or pizza afterwards.
I love that.
And it was just all about the environment. And that is something that I miss. Unfortunately, I don't have the time for it anymore. But yeah, not that I've tried to recreate it, but I do feel like my online community is an attempt at recreating those vibes.
Yeah.
We're not lifting together every day, but that really is what changed got me hooked, was just being around other people who were like, what if we just got strong and like had pancakes afterwards?
It's the best.
It's the best. Yeah.
The communities, a lot of those post-workout meals, after you just have an amazing workout, you go get the pancakes. My powerlifting buddies in college, we would always go get a huge thing of chocolate milk because that was the thing back then.
Yeah.
That was like that study came out about chocolate milk spiking proteins. So we just always got chocolate milk. Those were really fun days. So the community is wonderful. And what is the name of your online community for people who want to check it out?
Stronger by the Day. Yeah, is our main thing. And then I do have, and it's essentially a program. It's a program that everyone runs in a cohort. And same thing with Plus One, although it's like Plus One is our pregnancy prenatal. And that is not so much run in a cohort because it's specific to your trimester. But the good thing is that they both have their own communities where you can chat with everyone and get in the Discord and have conversations about pancakes or have conversations about really serious lifting stuff or mindset things. And yeah, that's why a lot of people are there.
What are you scared of?
Being a bad parent or like making mistakes with parenting, I think is, like I said, one of my biggest fears. So I really do try to be very proactive and involved. And I guess maybe with that, a bigger fear is like missing out on my kids being this size. And I always see videos that make me cry where he's like, a parent's talking about how these years your kids want to be around you all the time, and then when they're 13 they probably won't want to be around you as much. So I'm like just trying to soak it all up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big fear, is like fear of FOMO, of like fear of missing out of the time that's right in front of me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like not being present is a big fear.
What are you excited about?
I'm excited about my business right now. Is pretty exciting. And we're finally like in a good groove. This is like internally, but we're finally in a good spot with my team, which is really exciting to me because I have like a pretty much female run team. So I get to work with a bunch of badass chicks, and there are plenty of them are moms. Some of them are becoming moms, and they excite me a lot. And I like getting to talk to them every day. So
That's amazing.
exciting. Yeah.
I love that. Meg Gallagher, thanks for coming on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me at Meg Squats on all social media places. I'm the only one. And if you happen to listen to this because you're interested in pregnancy and postpartum, my program is called Plus One, but I have so many awesome videos about the breathing stuff on YouTube especially. And you can go into depth, and I'll teach you all those elevator cues, the flower vagina cue.
Your doming video on YouTube is fantastic.
Oh yeah, that one popped off.
Yeah,
it
that one
went
was great.
viral. And I feel like, I just taught people what doming is. So yeah, that's a great video to watch, especially if you're in that window or interested in anything that we talked about there.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Like the video on YouTube. Share it. Make sure you tag both me and Meg. Have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you soon.